Come to your senses. Everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of the original audition taping services in Atlanta. We're here to bring you tips and tricks to help you in your acting career. So on to our topic. Come to your senses. Now, this topic doesn't seem immediately relevant to your acting career, or maybe it does, but bear with me for a second while I nerd out with some Psychology 101. Our brains are faced with a ton of information coming in through all 5 of our senses constantly. Smells, sounds, visual cues, tactile responses, and tastes. Oh, and ESPN if you have a sixth sense. To avoid information overload, our brains have to prioritize all of the information coming in, which means some of it ends up on the cutting room floor, so to speak. Whether that means our brains don't even process it, or it just sort of is resting in our unconscious or our subconscious minds. I'm not a psychologist. Case in point, how do your clothes feel right now? I bet you weren't even thinking about that until I forced your brain to start thinking about it. Or if I asked you to close your eyes and identify at least 3 sounds happening in your environment. You'd probably be surprised to suddenly hear the air conditioner, or the hum of your computer, or traffic outside, birds, etc. We can sum up what your brain is doing pretty simply. For each of your senses, your brain only alerts your conscious mind when there is a significant change in stimuli. So, for instance, you don't notice the hum of the air conditioner until it turns off, and then you suddenly realize how quiet it just got. You don't notice the lingering smell of dinner until you go outside to check the mail, and when you come back in and your sense of smell has sort of been reset, so when you come back in the house, you suddenly smell dinner again. Speaking of, what is that smell? And if you're in a comfortable room, you don't notice the temperature until suddenly you step outside and it's really hot, or you step down into the basement where it's really cold. Okay, Matt, sounds great, but I thought this was a YouTube channel for actors, not Psych 101 students. Yep, it is. So let me tie all this together. When you're working on a script, hopefully all of that training you've done, you have been training, right, will get you to a point where you are organically changing things up throughout the scene or scenes. Because if you let the scene stay at one continuous pace for too long, or in the same emotional state for too long, or energy level, etc., then just like the air conditioner, your performance fades into the background. See what I did there? That's boring. The casting director will lose interest. They won't even watch your full tape, and they'll be moving on to the next tape without giving you a second thought. It's actually really hard to not vary up the pace, but some actors still have problems with that. If this is something you've never consciously thought of before, I invite you to give it a try. Next time you have a script, let the scene find its own specific rhythm, and just when you've got the audience to a place where they think they've figured it out, you change it up. See how that captured your attention? Not just the sudden change in pace, but also my relationship to the camera lens. I moved forward, and I paused, and I gave you a little smirk. So 3 things changed all in one beat to grab your attention right when you thought you understood how I was going to be delivering all of the dialogue. You can look for these changes in your emotional state, your physicality, the tone, the rhythm, and your relationship to the actual camera lens. Suddenly changing up your distance to the camera lens or your placement within the frame will draw attention. However, and please hear me on this, this sudden awareness of the external should not replace all of that internal work that you're doing to get your performances to a place of authenticity. Instead, think of it more of a checks and balances after you've done all of your normal prep work to make sure all of that great work isn't lost in a monotonous delivery. One corollary I'd like to offer is in regards to the size of the role. If you're auditioning for a 3-line co-star role, there might not actually be much opportunity to change things up. And that's okay. Your job as that character is to not draw attention, but instead to sort of fade into the tapestry of the world they're trying to create. But for bigger roles, whether it's a larger co-star role, a recurring co-star role, a guest star role, top of show guest star, series recurring, series regular, you're going to have trouble booking those larger roles if you continue to give co-star reads. What do I mean by that? Well, if you've been doing a lot of under 5 co-star roles, you've been lulled into a routine of not doing much in your auditions. So when a larger role comes into your inbox, your natural proclivity might be to give a more flat, one-level read, because that's what you've been used to doing all of these under 5 co-stars. So when that happens, that might be the time to think of this concept. Are you staying in the same emotion throughout all 3 to 5 pages of your character's sides? Are you keeping the same pace, the same energy level, the same physicality? If so, your read is just going to, once again, fade into the background. As always, if you find this subject controversial, leave us a comment or contact us. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.